This episode of the R&R podcast is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Newark Auto Body. You know, with winter weather and slick road conditions comes black ice and accidents, things we don't want to deal with. And if you've been in an accident and your car needs a little TLC, we're letting you know you need to look no further than Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body. They're safe, they're reliable, collision repairs is their business, and they do it like no other. Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body is a local, family-run, and veteran-owned business. It serves Newark, Zanesville, and the surrounding areas. And guess what? They work with all insurance providers to make your experience hassle-free, and you know you can't beat that. And check this out. If you're a U.S. military veteran, even better. Ask about their special discounts for vets right at the shop, and they'll be happy to help you. Now, look, we know it can be very hard to find a trustworthy car mechanic. However, we've got the answer for you because the people over at Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body, they've got you covered in every way possible. They care for you first, and they make sure they keep you safe and back on the road. Do a favor for us. Visit them today at autobodyofnewark.com and autobodyofzanesville.com. I'm going to give you that again. At autobodyofnewark.com and autobodyofzanesville.com, and they'll get your repair started right away. Our one-car gold class team of skilled collision repair technicians will make your vehicle like new again. No doubt about it. We'll add links in our show notes and tell them that Press Play sent you.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi and Roda podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. As we always do, got to lead things off with giving some love to our producer, fantabulous producer, the one, the only Ty Cordts, making sure all of you out there in the podcatosphere get this edition of the R&R podcast. And Michael, we're going to tackle the 12-team college football playoff here in a little bit. As the committee met, they decided, they bracketed it up, and we'll break it down as we see it coming up in a little bit. But we'll start tonight's R&R podcast with the Steelers and Browns battle in the Berg today. And for the 21st consecutive time in the regular season, the Steelers have defeated the Browns. 27-14 was the final today, Michael. And here's what I counted. You ready? 9 penalties, 81 yards, 3 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, 1 turnover on downs, and just some flat-out, dumbass, stupid-ass play by some of the Browns players in costing them a victory today at Pittsburgh.
That pretty well sums it up. Just again, after the touchdown drive has probably the best moment, well, not probably, one of the best moments of Jameis Winston's day, the touchdown toss to Jerry Jeudy that actually gave them an early lead at 7-3. But Kenny, everything from the offensive woes, poor decision making from Jameis Winston following that. Defensively, this football team really disappoints me, and they find different ways from week to week to let other teams take advantage of them. And then there, of course, is, what do you call it when we start talking about the kicker?
Nice job, you effing kicker. Nice job.
Hey man, Dustin Hopkins has got to be. You got to cut him. You got to release him.
Here's what I do, Michael. He was hurt to start the season. I put him on IR, make up some dumbass injury, and perfect with the Browns with all the dumbass moves they've been making on and off the field, and then sign somebody else for the remainder of the year because he is awful. You signed him to that contract in the offseason because of what he did last year. The exact opposite this year, his performance. So he's injured. Put him on the IR for the rest of the year, and I agree with you. Go out and get another kicker.
I don't want him kicking anymore. Whatever the hell you do with him, I don't want him kicking it anymore because, I mean, these are 38-yard miss, 43-yard miss. I mean, in a football game, you're trying to stay in on the road, right, against your hated rival. These are kicks that even halfway competent NFL kickers have to make, right?
Yep.
And this guy, he just doesn't in a game like this. And Kenny, I think the whole thing when he missed that first one, Kenny, that was a 38-yard field goal attempt that would have kept them in the football game. And to me, it seemed like and I never had a chance, when he hooked that wide left, it looked like, the whole football team just basically slumped their shoulders and head and knew what the fate was going to be. And then he'd go on to miss another one, of course. There were a lot of egregious things as usual. Kenny, this team's a 3-10 football team. And you and I were talking about 9. I think maybe you would. I know I did. I thought 9 wins when the season began and an opportunity to be fighting for a playoff berth. Maybe you said 8.
I went 7, 8, 9. I said, Michael, I don't know because I wasn't sure. The offense didn't play in the preseason. I didn't know what to expect from Watson. So I said anywhere between 7 and 9, and that's nowhere close what they're going to end up.
No. And, maybe it's a story for another day. But again, Andrew Berry's roster composition and what he's done and to put together this football team, that's an egregious fail.
Yep.
And maybe we'll just stay with football tonight. But down the road in the next couple of weeks, because, we said this season is done a couple of weeks ago, but now they've got, 4 football games to play? And I'm beginning to wonder how many guys show up to actually, really decide they want to go full bore and not, look to take care of themselves here, right? To not go into an off season where they have the thought that I don't want to go into an off season injured. So, that's always a thing for a team that isn't going to make the playoffs. But again, Kenny, we said it, they're damn difficult to watch, man. They really are on so many levels. And again, 3-10.
Michael, your point about the missed field goal right before the half, I made a note to bring up for tonight's R&R podcast, right? And here's what I wrote down. Let's see. 2 more Dustin Hopkins missed field goals. One right before the half, trailing 13-7. He makes that. It's 13-10, and they get the ball to start the second half. Okay, right. He misses that one. It's still 13-7. You're in the game. They come out, get a big kickoff return, right? And Ford take a 57-yard kickoff return by Ford. Okay, drive stalls. He has a chance for another field goal to make it 13-10 in the third quarter. He misses that. Michael, in back-to-back possessions, it could have been a tie game and anybody's ball game. Instead, like you said, the wind out of the sails. Instead of 13-all, it's still 13-7. And then you had the other dumbass mistakes that they made. What was the one that really burned me up? 4th and a half yard. Instead of running your 6'4", 230-pound quarterback for a sneak, let's try and run to the outside with Jerome Ford tackled for a 4-yard loss. Now, whether that was Dorsey calling that or, hey, Stefanski can veto any call if he wants to, right? If he didn't veto that, shame on Kevin Stefanski. Whoever, that was a horrific call. And then the other stupid penalties, they get a guy on the punt return catches the punt and makes a fair catch and then taunts the other team. That's 15 yards for Kadarius Toney. Jack Conklin. How do you come out of the fourth quarter break, Michael, right? Mm-hmm. You go into the end of the third quarter, you're on the sideline, you call the play, 3rd and 1, and you jump off sides in Jack Conklin, which makes it a 3rd and 6. That ends up being a 4th and 25 or whatever the hell. Just dumbass mistakes throughout the entire game by this football team.
Laughable and inexcusable, quite frankly, those 2 moments that you brought up. And again, this is from guys that you are paying huge money to in multi-year deals. And when they don't help you and when they don't play like they're worthy of the type of contract you went out of your way to sign them to, you got no shot. You got no shot. And yeah, this is a football team that has started to slump their shoulders and hang their heads. And when you start having the special teams breakdowns that we talked about, most specifically, and field goals that aren't made, especially on the road, that keep you in football games and maybe even give you the lead going in the fourth quarter, to me, you got nothing. And that's what the Browns are looking at right now. And, Kenny, it may get more problematic. It may get worse in these final, like, what is it? They got 4 football games left. Is that what it is? 4?
Let's see here. Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens.
4.
Yep.
Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, and Ravens. Well, I only see possibly one more win. And Ken, if it turned into being over, going 0-4 wouldn't surprise me in the least. What do you?
The one I think they're going to, Miami in the cold, to me is their best chance. But that's not a given because, maybe it's a warm day that day and the weather isn't a factor. Like today was 52 degrees in Ohio. So, Michael, 1-3, I think at best in the remaining games on this schedule. That's at best.
Yeah. So let's just say for the sake of argument, that makes them a 4-win football team, Kenneth.
Yep.
4. And to me, I'm sorry, you can't come back. How are you to, first of all, get that by this fan base? If you're going to come back and not make major moves, and whether that is, the playing roster, we know that there's a lot of guys that should be very worried about keeping their jobs going into 2025. And I'm starting to feel the same way about the coaching staff. And like I said, if you go back, and maybe we'll do it next week, we'll take a look at all the player acquisition from Andrew Berry since I'm going to tell you, you're going to see things that kind of boggle your mind and things that will show you that his player acquisition has been more miss than hit.
Oh, without question, right? His drafts have been awful. His trades have been decent for wide receivers, right? And a little help on the D line, but he's done better with trades than he has in free agency and he has in the draft, but not very good overall. And I agree with you.
It's not. We'll get into that here in the next couple of weeks as the Browns play out this string. And I really thought, again, just absolutely wrong. Maybe looking at it through want this kind of hope for the not only the franchise, but more importantly, the fan base. And here we are, just starting the month of December, and in shambles again. Season gone. Looking at a terrible final finish in terms of the standings, and it just shouldn't be this way. It really shouldn't. But when you have, as we said, when you have this combination of front office, coaching staff, and players, Ken, who are working below their pay grade, what their pay grade should be, and I mean performance-wise. I don't mean what they're actually making. I mean in their performance is trouble. It's just this is what you get. It's a lot of trouble, and it's got to stop, Ken. I mean, it's just got to stop at some point. Kenny, here's the thing that hit me. I went back and looked at it. Do you realize, and I didn't realize it, I did it twice to make sure I'm looking at this properly. I went back since they returned in 1999, right?
Yeah. Yep.
25 years. How many of those years do you think that have resulted and ended up in double-digit lost seasons.
Oh.
That means it's got to be at least 10.
Wow.
Since 1999. It's 25 football seasons.
Okay.
Guess, how many do you think?
Well, it's from the way you're explaining it, it should be at the high end of things. So 25 years. Michael, I'll go 15.
Today, earmarked the 18th year. 18 years, Kenny Roda. Since 1999, this football organization, this proud, long-standing beacon of the NFL, going back to the 50s and 60s. 18 years, Ken. They've lost at least 10 or more football games in a season since 1999.
That's, well, you know what? That tells you how bad this team has been, no matter who the owner was, who the general manager was or is, who the head coach was or is. It's just been an embarrassment since they returned in 99. And Reg, they were going for the first regular season sweep of the Steelers today for the first time since 1988. They haven't swept the Steelers in a regular season since Bernie Kosar quarterbacked them in the AFC Central Division when it was called that back in the. That's how long that's been. And as I said, 21st consecutive regular season loss to the Steelers in Pittsburgh as well, Michael. So all those, throw that all into the blender, mix it up, and it just is, a complete embarrassment of an organization since they've come back.
Yeah, it really has been. There's really no other way to try to sugarcoat it or make it feel better, sound better, look better. There just isn't any way to do it. And again, to me, this is professional sports. It has to result in people losing their jobs. I mean,
you would think, right?
Yeah.
You would think that's the case. Now we'll see. Again, if nobody does that, I've said this before on the R&R podcast, if nobody loses their job in the front office or the coaches, okay, that leads me to believe that Haslam was the one who wanted the Watson signing, okay, and the trade. Okay. Yeah. If somebody does lose their job, that leads me to believe that one of those guys, whoever that might be, pushed for that. So we'll have to wait and see when the regular season comes to an end and whether or not Jameis Winston starts the remaining games. Do they go back to DTR to give him one more look? Do they give Bailey Zappi one start? So how about this, Michael? Another stat to add to our, statistical losing breakdown of this football team. If Bailey Zappi does start, I believe he would be the 40th different starting quarterback since 1999 if he gets one start. Yeah.
I believe there's right there at upper 30s right now. I know that. So if you're saying it's 39,
I believe it is.
Yeah, a start for him. That is incredible too. That's in 25 football seasons. You're basically starting a quarterback and a half each and every year. I mean, come on now. That's it reeks of everything we said. And why do you think that all the decision making and then that manifests into the poor going into terrible play on the football field? Because, we know. You don't have quarterbacking play that's sufficient enough to win. You got nothing with your franchise. Yeah. I don't care. You've got nothing in this league, in this game, if you don't have consistency at the quarterback spot. And the Browns have been the exact opposite of that, as we just pointed out. The exact opposite of it.
Reg, Dustin Hopkins numbers this year, just for you. I pulled this up while you were talking. You ready?
Oh, boy.
Nice job, you effing kicker. Nice job. 16 of 25 field goals. I believe that is dead last of 32 kickers in the NFL. 16 of 18 extra points. I don't know what's worse, that he missed 2 extra points, Michael, or he only attempted 18 extra points, right? So that means on all kicks, to try and put it between the uprights this year, he's 32 of 43 or 11 missed kicks this year. And if they don't make a change, that leads me to believe they don't care about winning for the rest of this season, and they might want to do that, Michael. So they are battling for a top 5 draft. That may be where this shifts, right? To, okay, let's play the younger guys and state it that way to see what we have for the future. And the other way to look at it is we'll tank for the higher draft pick. So don't be surprised if, Hopkins stays as the kicker and they just decide to tank and lose these final 4 and go 3-14. So they're in the top 5 or 3 for draft picks.
And again, just for the sake of getting it right, an explanation. And this is the guy that Andrew Berry decided, let's give him a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal to kick for our football team.
Now, Reg, in fairness, he did have one hell of a year last year and was a big reason they won 11 games. And when he was injured at the end of the season, it really hurt them. Now, I'm not saying they should have jumped out and gave him the, contract, right? Make him do it 2 years in a row, right, Michael? I said that about Baker Mayfield. Show me for 2 consecutive years you can do it, and then I'll consider an extension. Well, same with Hopkins. Give me 2 consecutive years of 8 of 8 from 50 yards and 31 field goals or whatever he had made last year. And, well, now we see why the Chargers ended up staying with Cameron Dicker, the kicker, and let Hopkins go.
And so again, here it is. And if you want to just say, well, that's kind of the reality in the life of kickers. Okay. Certainly there's enough firewood there, but it's real simple. As good as he was last year. Yeah. This is more than a 180. He is as bad this year,
if not worse.
And the irony is, you rewarded him with a multi-year contract for big-time money. Yeah, big-time money for the kicker position. And, no doubt, very good last year, but I couldn't agree with you more. I'm sorry. I'm telling my kid, no, man. You know what? Quite frankly, you said, I need to see you give me some, solid substance, basically for 3 years, 4 years, and then I'll consider giving you the money because your position is a dime a dozen. I know the organizations that have real good ones, they're blessed, and I get it. And there are a few of those that, but off one season, and as you just said, he'd been bouncing around, so he has one good year, and you're going to give him the money now in a multi-year deal? Yeah. And that's what Andrew Berry and the Browns top-level thinkers decided to do. And so now he turns virtually as bad this year as he was good last year. And you can't win that way. No. You can't win that way without consistent field goal kicking. You can't.
Yeah. Add it to the laundry list of negative things for this football team to take care of in the offseason. All right, Reg, enough on the crappy Browns who are 3-10 going into next week's game against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I can't believe they're 3-10, buddy. I know. Well, we just gave you the reasons why, but never, ever, ever back when we were, we started hitting the Browns heavy, preseason, did I think that we'd be talking about this a couple weeks before Christmas. Really didn't.
I thought there'd be a chance they could not make the playoffs, but not this bad, Michael. That's why I said between 7 and 9, 7 and 8, you're not making it. 9 might have got you in, but not 3 wins with 4 games left. So they have to win the last 4 just to get to 7, and that ain't happening against the Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, and Ravens. No. So, all right, that's it. Stick a fork in them. They're done. We're done talking about them on this edition of the R&R Podcast. Let's get to some exciting football, Michael Reghi. The College Football Playoff Committee met at noon today, and they decided on their 12 teams for this year's first ever 12-team college football playoff, and we're going to share with you the bracket, who's playing who, which team got the byes. Do the Buckeyes have a chance to rebound from that embarrassing loss to the Wolverines and maybe run the table? Reghi and Roda come back and break it all down for you right after this.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Kenny Roda, along with my partner, Michael Reghi. And Reg, I was looking forward to the 12-team playoff committee bracketology announcement today, right? And I guess it was not a surprise with the exception maybe of one team, right? I think we knew who 11 of the 12 teams were, who was going to be that last team based on what happened in some conference championship games where Clemson kind of upset the apple cart, right? As they upset SMU. So that put SMU in doubt. Arizona State, a surprise winner. They were picked last in their conference in the Big 12 when the season started, and they ended up winning the conference championship. So those two teams getting in kind of made for an interesting reveal today. And that reveal said SMU, even though you lost, you are in. And Alabama, with 3 losses, even though you're in the SEC, you are out, Michael Reghi. Let's start there and work our way towards the top and towards the Buckeyes. Your thoughts on the committee putting SMU in basically over Alabama?
Well, I don't want to say it rings hollow, Kenny, because SMU got beat last night, right? So, I mean, you'd prefer them, I guess, if they're going to get a bid going in on a win. But I have no problem with Alabama being left out.
Me neither.
You lost 3 football games.
Yep.
You lost 3 football games this year. This was not a vintage or a extremely strong Alabama football team, and I kind of get it, but I had to laugh a little bit. My buddy Nick Saban he was ringing the bell the last couple of nights to try to make sure those Crimson Tide folk that he coached for so many years I even lost track. How the hell many national championships did he win there? 6, 7? I don't know. A lot of them. I know that. Right. He was trying to ring the bell to keep them in, and with him being a large part, of the college football playoff shows and throughout college football this year, even that didn't work for Alabama. So,
Reg, do you think if he was still the head coach and not one of us, they might have picked Alabama over SMU because of his championship pedigree? If Saban's there, are they in? Because he's not, they're out with 3 losses.
Possibility.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How could you say it's not?
Yeah.
Of course, I don't think, Kalen DeBoer likes hearing that a whole lot. It doesn't say a whole lot about his stewardship right now, right?
Right.
In the head coaching spot of the fabled Alabama Crimson Tide. But yeah, they're out. SMU gets in. Let's see. Indiana. What was Indiana? Indiana got seeded 10th, I believe.
They did. Yep. Here.
SMU wound up 11.
Right.
And so actually gaining that final spot, Ken, was really Clemson as the 12th seed.
Well, they are the 12th seed, but they were guaranteed a spot. So the last at-large berth went to SMU and Indiana. I guess you could say SMU and Indiana both beat out Alabama, if you want to be fair about it, right, Reg?
Yeah.
Those were the two team. It was probably a 4-team race for those final two spots between Alabama, Miami, Indiana, and SMU, and they took the Hoosiers and the Ponies over the Canes and the Tide.
And how about Boise State? Mountain West, right? A lot of people don't probably say, what the hell is the Mountain West? I'm sure a lot of college football fans aren't even sure who's in the conference and what it consists of. But that having been said, they got a bye. They won the Mountain West. Their only loss was to number 1 ranked Oregon, Ken.
Yep.
Boise State is the 3rd highest rated conference champion.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
So, they get a bye into the quarterfinals, although they were ranked number 9.
Yeah, and
I
there's
think a
where
lot of people are having a hard time. Well, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
So the rankings don't mean a damn thing anymore. They're ranked number 9 in the rankings, but they're the 3rd highest rated team in the college football playoff.
Right.
How does that work? Yeah.
The reason it's that way, at least for this year, and we'll see if it changes because of what's happened this year, is the top 4 highest ranked conference champions get the top 4 seeds, irregardless of what they're ranked. So that's why the 1 seed is Oregon, the 2 seed is Georgia. They win the SEC. The 3 is Mountain West champ Boise State. The 4 seed is Arizona State, winners of the Big 12, as they got the final seed over the ACC champ Clemson. So
there you go. They're a conference champion, right?
Yep.
A Power 5 conference champ, and they got the 12 seed. Did they not?
Yeah. Yes, they did. Yeah. So what I heard today, some debate today, Michael, was they need to take a look at the basketball bracketology rankings, because even if you win a conference championship, they go by how high you are ranked and not as a conference champion with an automatic, seed or an automatic bye in football here, Michael. So we'll see if this changes for next year. But so 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds, not rankings, seeds are Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State. And then 5 through 12 are this: Texas is 5. Penn State is 6, Notre Dame is 7, Ohio State is the 8th seed, Tennessee the 9th seed, Indiana the 10th seed, SMU the 11th seed, and Clemson is the 12th seed. Okay?
Right.
So that's the seeding.
You're right. And I want to here's the first round matchups. All right. And again, the front 4 don't have to play, right? But here's your matchups in that first round in a couple of weeks.
All right.
On Friday, December 20th, you got in the state of Indiana will be on fire. The Indiana Hoosiers go into the Golden Dome to tangle with your favorite football team, Kenny, the as you call them, the Crying Irish of Notre Dame. So Indiana goes to Notre Dame in the 10-7 game. Then you got SMU at 11. They got it. So see SMU now, right?
Yep.
Team out of Dallas. What they're going to Happy Valley.
There you go.
Hell, there might be 10 inches of snow and 0. And so Penn State gets a home game there as a 6th seed and against a team not accustomed, a Southern team not accustomed to the weather, right?
Hallelujah. Amen.
Yeah, right. 12 Clemson. They go play 5 Texas.
Yep.
And that is in Austin, of course. And the other one is number 9, Tennessee, going into the shoe and playing Ryan Day, and number 8, Ohio State. And that is on Saturday, December the 21st. And so then, of course, you get the top 4 will play the winners of those first round games. So I don't know. SMU going to Penn State, and all the James Franklin Happy Valleyers. They're gonna be looking for 0 and about 6 inches of snow.
Absolutely. Same in Columbus.
Right.
I think the Buckeyes, Tennessee's used to playing in warmer weather as well, Reg. And so I would think, a colder day, whether it's wet, snowy, rainy, windy, temperature below, 35 degrees, I think that's an advantage for Ohio State, although I don't know which Ohio State team's going to show up. If the one who showed up in the bowl game last year against Missouri shows up, doesn't matter what the temperature is going to be, they'll get run out of the building. So I'm waiting to see, which Ohio State team shows up against that Tennessee team. And here's what I sent out on the X today, Michael. Mm-hmm. I said, if Ryan Day wants to keep his job, then he's got to beat Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, more than likely, and probably Georgia to win the national championship. And if he can do that, even though he's lost 4 straight to Michigan, then he can keep his job. But if he loses in the first or second round, see ya. There's the door. Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out.
Well, I saw that assessment you made on the X, and you had me laughing. As that's all. That's all you got to do, Brian, to keep your gig. And taking it one step further, just real quick. Here's what the quarterfinals could be. Yeah. So you got number 3 Boise State will play that Penn State SMU winner, right?
Correct.
You got number 4 Arizona State against the Texas Clemson winner. Number 1 Oregon against the Ohio State Tennessee winner. And number 2 Georgia against the Notre Dame Indiana winner. So, I will say this, in expanding the playoffs, Ken, I mean, there should be some exciting and fun matchups, right?
Yeah.
That take place. And that is, that's coming up on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Those games I just mentioned, with the 4 top seeds playing the first round winners. So,
all right, let me ask you this, Reg. Who do you like in the first 4, as we'll call them? Let's go Texas and Clemson, 5 versus 12. Do you like Texas in that game, even though they're coming off a loss?
Yeah, they haven't finished the year real strong, but I do. I like Sarkisian in Texas.
So do
over Dabo there.
Yeah, so do I. OSU, Tennessee. Now, let me get your thoughts on that matchup, because I'm torn right now, to be perfectly honest with you.
I favor the Buckeyes because they got, at home and at night in potential weather.
Right.
I mean, come on now. That should be a decided edge for them.
I agree.
Favor.
Should be.
You should, but they better get better quarterback play than they got, against Michigan. And Ryan Day and his coaching staff got to be better too. I expect Ohio State to win that. Would I fall over shocked if they got beat at home by Tennessee? No, Tennessee's a pretty damn good football team.
Yeah, I expect I think Ohio State will win that game. We'll see. All right, SMU on the road at Penn State. Huge advantage. You pointed it out already with the weather, right? You got to go with the Nittany Lions, even with James Franklin coaching them.
As much as it pains me to do, because of James Franklin is eminently capable of losing that game with everything in his favor, as we pointed out. Yeah, I'll take Penn State in that one and expect the worst there for the Big Ten. and so then the last one would be what?
Indiana at Notre Dame. Hey, Michael Reghi, the ghost of Beano Cook here. Yeah. I think the Crying Irish are going to find a way to win that game and then go make a run and win the whole damn thing.
Good luck to you, Beano.
Oh, God.
Baby. They're playing pretty well. They're
they
playing
are.
Good football, here as they wound down the regular season. But I think that's something that, we'll see. Same thing. I mean, they're just a football team that, I wonder about, how their head coach handles it. Same thing kind of we're saying about Ryan Day. Although, again, the former Buckeye's been pretty solid this year. He really has in coaching that football team.
Yeah, and you've got Cignetti, who won Coach of the Year in the Big Ten, though. Could he, just Google me. I win. We'll see if he can, it's the battle of the Hoosier State, right? The battle in the South Bend between the Hoosiers and the Crying Irish. So, all right. So let's do this. It's kind of like the schedule game. All right, Reg?
Yeah.
I got Texas, OSU, Penn State, and Notre Dame moving on. Now, those are my four, okay?
Yep.
So, Texas, Arizona State. I'm still going with Texas in that one. All right, that's a neutral site game, right?
Me too.
OSU, Oregon, I'm taking Dan Lanning and the Ducks. I still think they're the best football team in the country. And, they always say, well, it's tough to beat somebody twice. Well, Georgia did it with their backup quarterback. So if you're the better team, you're going to win the game. So I have Oregon beating Ohio State in that one, right? Boise State, Penn State. I want your thoughts on that one, Michael. Is Boise State legit? I mean, is this one on a neutral field, right? That this is the surprise team that could be the first one maybe to upset one of the Blue Bloods?
They could be, and if it's going to happen, I do believe that's where it'll be.
Okay.
So, you know what? I'll just all the hedging around. I'll take Boise State to beat Penn State there.
I'm right now, it's a coin flip for me on that one. That game is a complete coin flip if it gets there, Penn State against Boise State. I need to do a little more film study, if you will, on Boise.
Sure, I get it.
Who's the running back that's in the run for the Heisman?
Ashton Genty.
Genty, okay. That could be a low-scoring ground and pound game between Penn State, who ran the ball very well against Oregon. But
they really did,
Drew Aller, the Medina kid, 2 costly interceptions, and you can't do that against Oregon because you got to match them point for point, and turnovers are going to kill you in a matchup like that. But in a ground and pound game, Penn State, Boise State, that one could go either way. I'm gonna give the benefit of I can't pick James Franklin, can I? To win two in a row? I can't pick James Frank. Did you hear him bitching and moaning in the press conference yesterday? Because you could hear, the guys from Oregon celebrating. That's like the JV. This is a JV setup here. And if I would have been there, I would have said, well, you're the JV team there, James. So this is where you deserve to be. So shut your damn mouth and win a damn football game against the top 5 team. And maybe we won't consider you the JV. So I have a tough time picking him twice, Reg.
It was, he wasted no time on that. He just basically called out, and did you see who was it standing there next to him? That the bowl committee guy, the CF, the college football playoff dude. He was standing right there, and basically he just called them all out. So
he did well. Win a game, James, or people are going to be calling for you to be coaching high school JV football somewhere. So I'll begrudgingly say PSU sneaks into the Final Four against Georgia, who I think will beat Notre Dame, no matter who the quarterback is. Reg, the Carson Beck, I'm not a huge fan of, right? I hope he's not hurt too seriously. Maybe he'll be ready in 2 weeks. Maybe he won't. But I picked Georgia. I actually hit a parlay, by the way, Rich. I took Georgia. Yeah, I took Georgia in a 14 parlay on the money line, which paid a little bit. But I just, their pedigree in that, I'll take Georgia in that. So I got Texas against Oregon, Penn State against Georgia, and I'm going Oregon, Georgia, with Oregon winning the whole damn thing.
Oregon to win it all. Well, as you said, look, they've been the best team in college football. I don't think we can. Now you can, nitpick and say, well, they don't do certain things exceptionally well. A lot of people, I still don't think a lot of people believe in Dylan Gabriel, Kenny. But I mean, again, they're undefeated this year, man. They've won some very close football games. So. Yeah, to me, I do think, and I know this is going against conventional wisdom, I'm going to take a shot with Sarkisian in Texas.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I know Reg, I know they're in the SEC, but I just continue to see Big 12. And Big 12 to me means in big games, they come up small. So,
Very true.
you have changed conferences, but have you changed the way you play in big games? And yesterday, they wet the bed. I mean, they did, Reg. They missed field goals.
They did. That's why it's difficult to the proclamation I just made. But they got to find a way to bounce back, and a lot of that is on Sarkisian. And boy, I don't know, man. That's another thing. Quinn Ewers, he's another guy too that blows hot and cold, right?
Yep.
And so it's there's a lot of things I like about that football team. I think defensively they're very solid. Special teams, they're real good, and so we'll see. But again, the combination of Quinn Ewers with Steve Sarkisian, yes, it could take them to the promised land, and it could also go south on them too.
Do you think Sarkisian has the balls to do what Nick did a few years ago when he had Tua and Jalen and was going back and forth, and it won him a national championship? Could we see Sark
Manning
go to Arch Manning more than just one or two plays a game and say, all right, sorry, we're down by 10 points or 14 points. Arch, go in there. Let's see what you can do. And if he rallies them in a come-from-behind win in one game, you stay with him rest of the playoffs.
Kenny, how wild would that be?
Ooh, man.
If he pulled the plug on, maybe they're struggling a little bit, maybe they're behind and in the fourth quarter, and he says, Quinn, no, we're going to sit you down, and Arch is going to take this series. Well, I tell you what, the Manning legacy, right?
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, the most, I think, the most, I guess, famous quarterbacking family.
Right? Yep.
It's certainly right up there. That would be wild, wouldn't it? If
who would lose their mind? Fansville. Dr. Pepper's Fansville would lose their mind if Quinn Ewers got benched because he does that commercial with Brian Bosworth. He says something along the lines of, I was in the playoff last year, not the backup. Well, maybe this year they go to the backup, and the new commercial is Playoff-uary is the new month between December and January, as they're calling it Playoff-uary, and maybe it'll be Arch Manning who ends up as the star of Playoff-uary.
It would be wild, but I think we're going to see a lot of that type of intrigue as we go through here through December and on into January, Kenny. It's going to be a lot of fun. Gotta love college football playoff now up to 12 teams, but I do think overall, they're doing it the right way. Is it 100%? No, but I think it's a hell of a good way. Now you got 12 teams, most of them, I think, very deserving to get a shot to play for a championship, right? So.
Yeah, and Reg, while I'm picking Oregon, what I love is there's no guaranteed winner. Like there was, in the 4 team when Bama was rolling, when Clemson had their team. Like I can't sit here and say 100% I'm betting everything I have on Oregon to win it all. Do I like them best? Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. But can they be beat? Absolutely. Defensively, you can score on them. And if you force a Gabriel turnover or a fumble from one of those skinny, even though they're fast and talented, but one of those skinny wide receivers, you pop one of those dudes and the ball, flies in the air and you get a turnover, then you could. But I lean towards them undefeated. Their quarterback has answered the call in the big games to this point. They've made enough defensive plays. And here's why I'm taking them over everybody else. Dan Lanning. I think Dan Lanning has done a masterful job with this football team and his approach psychologically to coaching this football team. He's done some things this year that were very Urban Meyer-esque. psychologically with his team. The when they played at Wisconsin, he opened his meeting with the Jump Around song and said, hey, every time you hear this, I want you to be like Pavlov's dog, salivating. You can't wait to get out on the field and hit somebody and do so. So he's planting that mental seed, the positivity and a focusness, Jim Thome term. He's got all that working for him. So I think Dan Lanning right now, he and Kirby Smart, who's won it, Dan Lanning's approach, that's why I've got those two playing in the finals.
Well, I'm right there with you on Lanning, and I couldn't agree with you more on the things you said. And, at times, I've talked to a few Oregon people. It's like, well, Dan, you've got so much there at your disposal player-wise. Yep. Just don't F it up. Stay out of the way when you have to, and don't try to overthink it and coach it too much. And, I always take that and listen to it from fans of a program like that and say, well, that's pretty wild. The dude's had them number one in the country all year long. They're undefeated. But as we know, fans get a little bit worried a lot of times, Kenny. So, but I'm going to go with that too. I'm going to take Oregon I'm sorry. I'm talking about,
right.
I'm going to take Texas.
Okay.
I'm going to take Sarkisian and Texas. And I think they got a shot to, play quality football and win this thing. So I'll go Texas just to be a little different.
And last thing, and we got to get out of here on this edition of the R&R podcast, Reg. Looking at the bracket, if you were to pick a team that has the easiest road to the championship, who do you think that is? I have my team, okay?
Easiest road.
Yeah, based on the seeding, who they would play next. I have my team that I think has the easiest road at least to the finals. I'll say that.
Each picked a team to win it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they've had the easiest road,
right? Right, exactly.
Kenny, I'll be honest with you. I can't see them winning it. But I was looking at Penn State. They got SMU to start with.
Right.
And then they got Boise State, who doesn't have the kind of physicality that Penn State has.
Although they could pull the upset, and we talked about that, right? But
they could.
Right.
And so, you know what?
Georgia with a backup quarterback potentially, right? I think it's that lower portion. I think it's Penn State or Georgia with arguably, if there is one, the easiest path to the finals. Maybe not winning it all.
All right, how about a comfortable road? How
about that?
It's not the easiest, but I'm going to go Penn State.
Okay.
I'll put more pressure on our pal James Franklin.
And I'm going to go Georgia because they get to play James Franklin and Penn State in that game to get to the finals.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
understood.
Reg, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I may be going to that Ohio State-Tennessee game. I'm looking in on tickets on that. It's on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock on the 21st. So I'm at my best friend, Mike Johansson, played basketball at Tennessee. So we may be making a roadie down to Columbus to watch the first ever playoff game in Columbus. How about that?
I don't think I don't have a game. I think I may have to ask son Cal, see what he can do for me.
There you go. Rely on your son to get the tickets. There you go, Reg.
How about that, boy?
He's always relied on you to get tickets in the past. Now you go to your son and get tickets for this.
There you go. That's what happens. And, we put him in these kind of opportunities. Now you take care of Pops now, huh?
There you go. That's how it's supposed to be, Reg. That's how it's supposed to be in situations like this.
Yes, indeed.
Should be a fun journey in this college football playoff, and we'll be talking about it through the coming weeks, and we'll see who ends up being crowned this year's national champ. All right, Reds, that's going to do it. Browns suck. College football should be fun, and we'll be breaking it all down over the next 5 weeks.
Woo, boy, that's a good description of the pro football team in town. Always a lot of fun, Kenny. Look forward to seeing you next week, man.
All right. Thanks to all our loyal listeners out there. We appreciate your listenership, following us, staying with us over all these years. Thanks to our producer, Ty Cordts, who is fabulous in making sure all of you get this out there. And remember, subscribe at the Press Play Podcast Network. That way you find out whenever a new R&R podcast drops. And, of course, if you're having trouble, just go anywhere and everywhere you get podcasts. Ask Siri, ask Alexa, ask desk, your phone, whoever, your car, your smart device, they'll be able to find the Reghi and Roda podcast from the Press Play Podcast Network.